Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for standing by and welcome to the fourth quarter and fiscal year 2021 Hello Group Inc. earnings conference call. At this time, all participants are on a listen-only mode. After the speaker's presentation, there'll be a question-and-answer session. To ask a question during the session, you need to press star 1 on your telephone. If you require operator assistance, please press star 0. Please note that today's conference is being recorded. I would now like to hand the conference over to your first speaker today, Ms. Ashley Jing. Please go ahead.
Thank you, operator. Good morning and good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for Hello Group's fourth quarter and fiscal 2021 earnings conference call. The company's results were released earlier today and are available on the company's IR website. On the call today are Mr. Wang Li, CEO of the company, and Mr. Jonathan Zhang, CFO of the company. They will discuss the company's business operations and highlights, as well as the financials and guidance. They will both be available to answer your questions during the Q&A session that follows. Before we begin, I would like to remind you that this call may contain forward-looking statements made under the Safe Harbor provisions of Private Securities Litigation Reform Act of 1995. Such statements are based on management's current expectations and current market and operating conditions and relate to events that involve known or unknown risks, uncertainties, and other factors, all of which are difficult to predict and many of which are beyond the company's control, which may cause the company's actual results, performance, or achievements to differ materially from those in the forward-looking statements. Further information regarding this and other risks, uncertainties, and factors is included in the company's filings with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. The company does not undertake any obligation to update any forward-looking statement as a result of new information, future events, or otherwise, except as required under law. I will now pass the call to Mr. Wang. I will translate for him. Mr. Wang.
大家好，感谢参加今天的电话会。2021对我们来说是忙碌的一年，面对诸多外部挑战，团队能够有条不紊地向年初制定的各项战略重点持续推进，并取得了不错的成绩。我在今天的发言中将首先为大家回顾4季度以及2021财年主要的运营和业务成果，之后会介绍一下2022年的战略目标及实现路径。
Good day, everyone. Thank you for joining our conference call today. 2021 was a busy year for us. Despite a variety of external challenges, our team was able to methodically execute our strategic priorities set at the beginning of the year and delivered solid results. In my remarks today, I will begin by reviewing the key operational and business results for the fourth quarter and fiscal year 2021, followed by outlining our strategic priorities for FY 2022 and our execution plan.
首先，简单介绍下财务表现。2021年4季度总营收36.7亿人民币。同比下降3%，环比下降2%，调整后营业利润5.07亿人民币，对应营业利润率14%。Momo主 App 营收32.4亿人民币，同比增长6%，环比持平。调整后营业利润6.52亿人民币，对应营业利润率20%。探探营收4.37亿人民币，同比下降41%，环比下降14%。下降来自于为改善用户体验、提升留存启动的商业化回撤。本季度探探调整后净亏损1.30亿人民币，去年同期为884万人民币。
I will start with the brief overview of our financial performance. For the fourth quarter of 2021, total revenue at the group level was 3.67 billion RMB, down 3% year-over-year and 2% quarter-over-quarter. Adjusted operating income for the quarter was 507 million RMB, representing a 14% profit margin. For the core Momo business, total revenue was 3.24 billion RMB, up 6% from Q4 last year and flattish from last quarter. Adjusted operating income was 652 million RMB with a 20% margin. Tantan's total revenue for the quarter came in 437 million RMB, down 41% year-over-year and 14% sequentially. The decrease was due to the monetization process to improve users' experience and retention. Adjusted net loss from Tantan was 130 million RMB for the quarter, compared with 8.84 million RMB for the year-ago period.
2021财年，集团总营收146亿人民币，上年同期为150亿人民币。营收下降的主要原因在于，探探为提升用户体验和留存，以促进整体用户增长，下半年启动的商业化回撤。不包含探探，Momo年度营收较去年微降1%，且在下半年回归增长轨道。集团调整后营业利润25.9亿人民币，对应营业利润率18%。不包含探探，Momo营业利润29.2亿人民币，对应营业利润率23%。探探调整后净亏损3.37亿人民币。
For fiscal 2021, total revenue at the group level was 14.6 billion RMB, compared with 15 million renminbi in 2020. The year-over-year revenue decrease was due to our strategic decision to lower Tantan's monetization level in the second half of the year to improve user experience and retention to drive overall user growth. Excluding Tantan, revenue for the core Momo was slightly down 1% from last year, with the second half of 2021 back onto the year-over-year growth track. Adjusted operating income at the group level was 2.59 billion RMB with a 18% margin. Excluding Tantan, operating income for the core Momo was 2.92 billion RMB with a 23% margin. Adjusted net loss for Tantan was 337 million RMB.
接下来具体介绍一下本财年的其他情况。我先介绍陌陌主 App， 稍后再讲探探。首先是核心运营数据，陌陌主 App 4季度 MAU 1.14亿人，同比微涨，环比小幅下滑。环比下降的主要原因在于年末国内多处地区疫情反复，防控措施升级，导致陌生社交意愿下降。同时伴随电商季的到来，渠道竞争推高获客成本。出于2考虑，我们削减了渠道投放力度。本季度付费用户数890万，去年同期为900万，与3季度相比，付费用户数环比减少40万，主要原因在于 MAU 减少以及疫情对付费转化率的负面影响。面对疫情及渠道竞争等外部压力，产品团队通过提升陌陌基础社交体验，有效促进存量用户的社交行为，双向关系对数同比大幅提升，消息和招募回复率也保持增长趋势。产品优化结合渠道策略升级，使新增留存创下了疫情以来新高，整体留存率在 Q4 达到年内高点。陌陌社交基本盘持续保持稳定。
Now, a deeper dive into other aspects of the year. I'm going to focus on the core Momo business and move on to Tantan later. As for the key operating matrix, core Momo had 114.1 million monthly actives for Q4 21, up slightly from a year ago and down slightly from the previous quarter. The sequential decline was due to a COVID-19 resurgence and related control measures in various regions in China toward the end of the year. This had a clear negative impact on users' social sentiment. In addition, the peak e-commerce season drove up unit acquisition costs for channel marketing. As a result, we lowered our channel investment for ROI considerations. The number of paying users for the quarter was 8.9 million, compared with 9.0 million a year ago. On a sequential basis, paying user count decreased 400,000. This was mainly due to the decrease in MAUs, and on top of that, COVID-19 having a negative impact on paying conversion. Despite external challenges, our product team managed to enhance user engagement by improving the basic social experience on the platform. The number of two-way interactions grew meaningfully from the year-ago period, and the number of greetings and response rate also continued to trend up. Product optimization, together with channel strategy refinement, led new user retention to hit a record high since the beginning of the pandemic, while the overall retention ratio reached a year high in Q4. This shows that the fundamentals of the core Momo as a social platform continue to remain stable.
接下来介绍一下我们2021年在各项战略重点方面所取得的成果。
Next, let me walk you through the progress we made with our strategic priorities for the financial year 2021.
首先是陌陌主 App 用户方面，2021年，特别是下半年受疫情防控影响，陌生社交情绪持续低迷，渠道流量来源日趋集中，资源竞争越发激烈，导致拉新成本居高不下。我们在获客方面以收益最大化为目标，抓住有利时间窗口，择时加大获客力度，灵活调整新增和召回的比例，让资源向流通率好、转化率高、单位成本较低的老用户召回倾斜，抵消了新客单价日趋走高对成本端造成的压力。获客 ROI 的持续优化，配合产品端的努力，对我们比上年整体落基的预算实现 MAU 较2020年小幅增长，完成了陌陌主站2021年用户方面的战略目标，并且为2022年维持大盘稳定探索出有效路径。
Firstly, on core Momo's user front, COVID-19 related control measures suppressed the overall open social sentiment throughout 2021, especially in the second half of the year. Meanwhile, channel traffic became increasingly concentrated on a few platforms, resulting in a more intensive competition for channel resources and driving up unit acquisition costs for new users. Our goal has been to maximize ROI by seizing favorable marketing windows to step up user acquisition efforts. We have been subtly adjusting the allocation of marketing spend for new user acquisition and reactivation of dormant users. we offset the overall cost pressure caused by the increase in the unit price of new users by shifting resources to reactivate dormant users, because the retention ratio and paying conversion of dormant users are considerably higher than that of new users, and the unit price is meaningfully lower. Thanks to the continued improvement in channel ROI and product efforts, we were able to achieve our strategic goal for core Momo users to deliver a moderate increase in MAUs at a slightly lower cost compared to last year. This has proven to be an effective way for us to maintain a stable user base in 2022.
产品方面 ，Momo 主 App 产品团队2021年在优化核心场景和持续产品创新两个方向都取得了不错的进展。上半年推出了一款新体验小宇宙，让用户在无需公开个人资料信息的前提下，分享自己的情感经历，满足他们的倾诉需求，对提升女性用户的活跃及留存起到了积极作用。下半年附近的人改版，通过去中心化的流量分配，有效改善了用户体验，提升老场景的匹配效率，推出新场景为存量用户提供增量价值，是产品团队通过提升留存，促进大盘稳中有涨的重要手段。
On the product side, the core Momo product team made good progress in optimizing core user experience while making continuous product innovation throughout 2021. The introduction of the Miniverse experience in the first half of the year allows users to share their relationship stories and express their feelings without releasing their profile information. It played a positive role in enhancing female users' engagement and retention. The revamp of the Nearby People list in the second half of the year has also enhanced the user's experience by decentralizing the distribution of traffic, improving the efficiency of relationship discovery within the core experiences, and introducing new features that provide incremental value to previously underserved users, are key means for the product team to improve retention and ultimately drive steady user growth.
除 Momo 主 App 以外 ，2021年我们在丰富品牌矩阵、拓宽 Momo 和探探之外的业务边界这一战略重点上也取得了积极的进展。其中一个亮点是面向 MENA 市场的语音社交 App SoChill。团队利用在国内积累的丰富的产品经验，结合本地化运营，随着用户留存和 ROI 的逐渐提升，我们在下半年加大市场投入，用户规模和营收实现快速增长。尽管 SoChill 的用户和商业化水平尚处于早期阶段，但其月流水已相当于赫兹和贝贝的总和。下半年我们在欧美市场推出了一款针对女性用户的迪士尼风格模拟经营类游戏《童话镇》，流水伴随着寒假期间推广力度的加大，在4季度实现快速增长，其 ROI 稳步提升。
In addition to core Momo, in 2021, we continue to execute our strategic priorities of enriching our product portfolio and pushing the boundaries beyond Momo and Tantan. One highlight here is SoChill, a voice-based social app targeting the MENA area. Our team leveraged our rich product experience accumulated in China and combined it with a localized operational approach. With user retention and ROI gradually improving, we stepped up our marketing efforts in the second half of the year. As a result, user scale and revenue showed rapid growth. Although SoChill is still in the early stages of user and monetization, its monthly revenue has already caught up to the level of Hezi and Duidui combined. In the second half of the year, we launched Fairy Town, a Disney-like simulation game, specifically targeting overseas female users. As we stepped up our marketing efforts during the holiday season, revenue grew rapidly in Q4, and ROI continued to improve steadily.
除 SoChill 之外，两款面向国内市场的音视频社交产品赫兹和对对，2021年也取得了很好的进展。对于这两个相对成熟的 Apps， 下半年我们重点采取降本增效的运营策略，因此这两款 Apps 在4季度内都实现了盈利。
In addition to SoChill, Hezi and Duidui, the two audio and video-based social apps targeting domestic markets, also made impressive progress in 2021. For these two relatively mature apps, our strategy was focused on reducing costs and improving efficiency during the second half of the year. As a result, both apps turned profitable within Q4.
接下来介绍一下我们在推动现金流业务重回增长轨道这一战略重点上取得的进展。
Next, I'll review the progress that we've made regarding our priority of bringing the cash cow business back onto the growth track.
首先是直播业务，4季度Momo主 App 直播业务营收19.5亿人民币，同比增长1%，环比持平。2021财年直播总营收74.8亿人民币，同比下降13%。年内我们持续专注于通过加强供给端来改善内容生态系统，流水在春节低点后进入环比增长轨道，且增长势头延续至3季度中。受制于9月以来日益严峻的宏观挑战，4季度非赛事日流水较夏天高点出现明显回撤。 为应对经济低迷造成的消费疲软，我们通过组织一系列小规模的日常赛事活动，有效调动各个阶层用户和主播的参与积极性，以相对温和的刺激方案保持流水稳定。虽然这些活动相关的成本给毛利率带来额外压力，但我们认为这对于帮助内容生态合作伙伴渡过难关来说是非常必要的投入。
Firstly, with respect to live streaming, our Momo live streaming business revenue totaled 1.95 billion RMB for the first quarter, up 1% year-on-year and flattish sequentially. For fiscal 2021, revenue from live streaming totaled 7.48 billion RMB, down 13% compared with 2020. During last year, we continued to focus on the improvement of the content ecosystem by beefing up the supply end. Revenue entered a sequential growth track after Chinese New Year low seasonality, and its growth momentum was maintained until mid-Q3. The non-event days daily gross revenue came down quite a bit in Q4 compared with the summer peak due to the increasingly challenging macro headwinds starting in September. In order to overcome spending softness, we hosted a series of small-scale promotional events to keep various cohorts of spenders and performers well engaged, so that we could keep daily gross revenue at a decent level through relatively mild stimulative measures. Although the related costs associated with these additional events put some pressure on gross margin, we believe it was a necessary expense to help our content ecosystem partners weather tough economic conditions.
尽管存在宏观挑战，Momo直播整体内容生态系统持续稳步改善，新的主播激励政策不断发挥积极作用，确保我们锁定高利润主播供给，并使我们在招募新人时也更具吸引力。优质新主播数量较年初增长近60%，留存及流水占比也显著提升。
Despite the macro challenges, the overall content ecosystem continued to show steady improvement. The new incentive program continued to take effect in enabling us to secure the supply of high growth revenue broadcasters and making us more attractive when recruiting new talents. The amount of high quality new talents grew 60% compared to the beginning of the year, and the retention and share of revenue contribution increased significantly.
接下来介绍增值业务，四季度不包含探探 ，VAS 收入12.4亿人民币，同比增长16%，环比下滑1%。环比下滑主要由于疫情管控抑制陌生社交情绪及付费意愿，以群组为主的虚拟礼物小额付费人数环比出现比较明显的下滑，会员人数环比也出现小幅回落。Momo主站 VAS 营收11.4亿人民币，同比增长11%，独立新 Apps 营收9784万人民币，同比增长142%，收入占比进一步提升。
Now turning to VAS, revenue from value-added service excluding Tantan totaled 1.24 billion RMB for the fourth quarter, up 16% year-over-year and down 1% sequentially. The sequential decrease was mainly due to the pandemic-induced suppression of users' social sentiment and propensity to pay, resulting in the number of long-tail virtual gifting paying users, particularly in the interest group, declining significantly. The number of membership subscriptions also showed a slight sequential decrease. Momo VAS revenue was 1.14 billion RMB, up 11% from the same period last year. Revenue from the new bucket of standalone apps totaled 97.84 million RMB, up 142% from Q4 last year, making a more meaningful contribution to our top line.
2021财年不包含探探 VAS 总营收48.5亿人民币，同比增长29%，其中 Momo 主站 VAS 总营收45.4亿元，同比增长25%。音视频社交娱乐场景中的游戏化玩法创新和运营活动推动，营收在高基数上持续快速增长。例如，二季度聊天室推出8人麦体验，让用户通过赠送虚拟礼物的方式，向8位同时在线的草根艺人提出唱歌或剧本朗诵等表演需求。3季度我们在聊天室引入游戏化礼物玩法星球召唤，这些体验都受到用户的广泛欢迎。除了音视频娱乐，团队在传统场景的虚拟礼物中也引入创新玩法。例如年初在兴趣群组里推出以节日为主题的套系礼物，通过定期更新礼物创意，持续有效地拉动用户消费热情。另外，520恋爱大作战是我们通过运营活动保持用户新鲜感和活跃度的很好案例。
For fiscal 2021, revenue from VAS, excluding Tantan, totaled 4.85 billion RMB, up 29% year-over-year. Momo VAS revenue totaled 4.54 billion RMB, up 24% year-over-year. A rapid growth from a high base was mainly driven by the introduction of gamified features and operational events into the audio and video social entertainment experiences. For instance, In Q2, we brought in the Buy and My experience in the chat room, where 8 grassroots talents are concurrently available and users can send virtual gifts to request performances ranging from singing to script reading. In Q3, we introduced Planet Summon or 星球召唤, a gamified gift feature in the chat room. These features were well received by users across the board. In addition to audio-video social entertainment, the team also introduced innovations into the traditional gifting category. To illustrate this, we made themed seasonal gifts available in the interest group at the beginning of the year, where we periodically reinvented gift ideas that effectively stimulated spending enthusiasm amongst users. Furthermore, Love Battle 520恋爱大作战 is a good example of how we keep users fresh and engaged through operational events.
下面很快说一下新 apps。独立新 apps 2021年总营收 3.04 亿人民币，同比翻了近3倍，增长来自 Social、赫兹和对对共同推动下的用户和 ARPU 双向提升。这些 apps 的表现，我刚刚已经在产品环节逐一介绍，此处就不再赘述。
Now, briefly about the new apps. For fiscal 2021, revenue from the new bucket totaled 304 million RMB, almost tripled that of last year, driven by both user and ARPU growth. The performance were collectively driven by Social, Hezi, and Duidui, and the performance of each of these apps were already reviewed in the previous product session, so I'll quickly skip here.
下面谈一下探探，首先是用户趋势和整体财务表现。年末疫情反复对用户约会热情造成明显的负面影响，令市场投放效率降低。因此我们在渠道方面采取了相对保守的投放策略。疫情管控严重的地区用户规模出现明显下降，团队将精力集中在通过快速迭代的方式发布有助于改善用户体验的产品调整。受益于产品的稳步改善，用户规模在没有疫情管控相对宽松地区有所提升。4季度探探 MAU 2700万，环比增长 1%， 较6月增长 8%， 低于我们年中的预期。截止4季度末，探探付费用户数250万人，较上季度的290万人减少40万人。3个原因导致付费用户数环比下滑。一是为改善用户体验、提升流程而启动的商业化回撤，对付费转化率和 ARPU 造成明显的负面影响。二是疫情压抑用户约会需求，使付费转化率进一步承压。三是我们当前的产品精力集中在探索滑动匹配之外的产品体验，对现有的 VAS 付费功能造成分流，这对付费转化率及收入显然是一个负面因素。未来将通过在非滑动匹配场景中推出新的增值服务体验来解决。
Now, turning to Tantan, I will start with user trend and overall financials. The COVID resurgence had a clear negative impact on people's dating sentiment, which made large-scale marketing campaigns less effective. We therefore took a moderate approach in terms of marketing investment. User scale decreased significantly in regions where COVID containment measures were severe. Internally, we focused our efforts on product adjustments aimed at improving user experience through rapid iterations. The steady product improvement led to an upward trend in user scale in regions that were free of pandemic and the control was more relaxed. Tantan had 27 million monthly active users for the fourth quarter, up 1% from September and 8% from June, but lower than our mid-year expectation. Tantan's paying user count came in at 2.5 million at the end of Q4 21, down from 2.9 million last quarter. The 400,000 net decrease was mainly attributable to 3 factors. First, the demonetization process to improve user experience and retention had a negative impact on paying conversion and ARPU. Second, the pandemic suppressed the user's dating sentiment and inclination to pay. Third, our current product efforts mainly focus on experiences beyond the swipe and match mechanism, which diverts traffic away from the existing VAS paying features. This is obviously a negative factor to the membership paying conversion and revenues. However, this is a temporary problem, which can be addressed by introducing new VAS features beyond the swipe and match system.
接下来简要回顾下探探的财务表现。4季度探探总营收 4.37 亿人民币，同比下降 41%， 环比下降 14%。VAS 收入环比下降 14% 至 2.36 亿人民币，付费用户和 ARPU 均有所下滑，原因刚已有所解释。直播收入环比下降 14% 至 2.01 亿人民币，9月改版 UP 弱化直播的策略使付费用户数环比下滑， ARPU 在年末赛事活动驱动下环比提升。
Now, let me briefly review Tantan's financial performance. Total revenue for the fourth quarter was 437 million RMB, down 41% year-on-year and 14% quarter-over-quarter. VAS revenue decreased 14% sequentially to 236 million RMB. The sequential decrease was due to the decrease in both paying user count and ARPPU for reasons explained earlier. Live streaming revenue decreased 14% sequentially to 201 million RMB. The sequential decrease was due to the decline in paying user counts as we substantially de-emphasized live streaming in the September product upgrade. ARPPU grow on a sequential basis, driven by the promotional events held at the end of 2021.
2021财年，探探总营收20.3亿人民币，同比下滑14%，调整后净亏损3.37亿人民币。2020年同期亏损为2.50亿人民币。营收和利润水平下降，主要由于我们为提升用户体验和留存采取的一些举措，这其中包括年初调整营销策略，以增加女性占比，以及下半年商业化回撤。除此之外，4季度疫情反复，对收入也造成额外的负面影响。ARPPU 增长部分抵消了付费人数减少对收入的冲击。VAS 2021年总营收11.3亿人民币，同比下滑18%。直播总营收9.03亿人民币，同比下滑10%。
For fiscal 2021, total revenue for Tantan was 2.03 billion RMB, down 14% year-on-year. Adjusted net loss was 337 million RMB, compared with the net loss of 250 million RMB in 2020. The decrease in the top line and bottom lines was mainly caused by our initiatives to improve user experience and retention, including marketing strategy adjustments to increase the female ratio at the beginning of the year and the demonetization process in the second half. In addition, the COVID-19 resurgence in Q4 also had a further negative impact on revenue. ARPPU improvement partially offset the impact of a decrease in paying user count. VAS revenue for fiscal 21 decreased 18% year-on-year to 1.13 billion RMB. Total revenue from live streaming business decreased 10% to 903 million RMB.
接下来总结一下探探2021年战略目标的执行情况。探探今年唯一重要的战略目标是通过提升市场投放效率以及核心用户体验，推动用户规模稳定增长。过去几年的内外部挑战使探探用户规模自2019年上半年从高点出现下滑。外部挑战主要来自于2020年年初以来持续反复的疫情以及其他不可控的外部因素。反观自身，我们在核心产品体验、渠道获客效率以及品牌建设等重要领域都存在一些明显问题，导致过去几年没能很好的抓住眼前巨大的市场机会。2021年最重要的举措是在管理层调整过后部署了可行的战略目标，让探探在执行方案和团队能力上都重新步入正轨。在这过程中，我们遇到了一些计划外的困难，但也取得令人欣慰的成果。下面我给大家回顾一下具体情况。
Now, I'll quickly recap Tantan's execution of strategic priorities in FY21. The single most important goal for Tantan during the year was to deliver solid user growth by improving marketing efficiency and core dating experience. Several external and internal challenges over the past few years led to a decline in Tantan's user base from its peak in the first half of 2019. The external challenges mainly came from the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic since the beginning of 2020 and other factors that were out of the company's control. In retrospect, we could have done much better in important areas, including core product experience, channel marketing efficiency, and brand building. As a result, we haven't been able to take full advantage of the tremendous market opportunities that we were seeing in the past few years. Our most important move in 2021 was to put Tantan back on track by deploying a viable strategic target together with an execution plan as well as assembling a fully competent team after group realignment. In this process, we encountered unexpected obstacles, but also achieved encouraging results. Now, I'll go through the details.
首先谈谈不足之处。管理层交接之后，由于我们对产品运营方面的进度估计过于乐观，叠加4季度疫情的反复，导致我们最终未能完成年终所设定的用户增长目标。
First of all, let me talk about the aspects that we didn't do well enough. During the management transition, our assessments about how fast we can push forward the product and operational reform was a bit too optimistic. This compounded with the COVID-19 resurgence in Q4 have caused us to miss the user growth target I set in mid-2021.
虽然用户增长低于我们最初的预期，但令人欣喜的是，年底前探探的管理和执行团队已全部到位。此前我们利用2个季度的时间全面梳理了探探的产品体验、营销策略和品牌方案，通过大规模调研深入研究用户行为，明确了以上3个重点领域的问题所在，并提出相应的解决方案。
Although user growth was lower than we originally hoped for, we were pleased to see that the entire management and execution team was in place by the end of the year. Before that, we had spent 2 quarters thoroughly reviewing Tantan's product experience, marketing strategy, and branding plans. Based on large-scale research surveys and in-depth studies of user behavior, we identified key problems in these 3 areas and formulated corresponding solutions.
营销方面，我们最大的收获是对探探严重失衡的用户结构进行了调整。过去几年，探探为追求季度付费人数及收入目标控制 ROI 和转化率，在获客环节牺牲了对新客的质量要求，渠道投放向付费意愿强的男性用户倾斜，导致性别比例逐渐恶化。均衡的男女比例对约会社区的整体用户体验以及生态的长期健康发展至关重要。启用针对女性用户的广告素材后，新增女比大幅提升。我们将这一比例控制在40%至50%的合理区间。经过几个季度的调整，目前探探整体男女比例已恢复到2018年初的水平，且趋势稳定向好。
On the marketing side, the most important area of progress we've made was to adjust the increasingly unbalanced user structure. In the past few years, in order to control ROI and paying conversion to meet quarterly numbers in paying user count and revenue, Tantan compromised the quality of new users acquired through channels. Marketing efforts were tilted towards male users with a strong propensity to pay, resulting in a gradual deterioration of the gender mix. We believe a balanced gender ratio is crucial to the overall user experience in a dating community and the long-term healthiness of the ecosystem. The percentage of female users acquired through channels increased significantly since we introduced new ads material, specifically targeting women. We managed to keep the proportion of female users from channels within a reasonable range of 40 to 50%. After several months of adjustments, Tantan's overall gender ratio returned to early 2018 level with a stable upward trend.
产品方面，今年取得的最主要进展之一是明确了提升流程的关键是改善女性和不露脸用户的体验问题。研究发现，由于亚洲女性社交主动性差，探探上40%的女用户缺乏滑卡行为，导致无法实现匹配互动。另外，访谈中60%由于头像不达标，被拦截在探探约会社区之外的用户表示出于个人顾虑不愿意露脸，并非没有社交意愿。目前我们每日新增注册中约有1/3的用户为不露脸用户。看脸将滑动匹配的产品机制不能有效满足女性及不露脸用户的约会需求，从而使他们的留存长期显著低于大盘。提供更加丰富的产品功能有助于提升这2类用户的约会体验及留存，从而为 MAU 带来可观的增量贡献。虽然团队目前在这方面尚未取得突破性进展，但我们已经看到了一些令人满意的测试结果。今年我们将以快速迭代的方式进行持续探索。
On the product side, one of the most important areas of progress made in 2021 was that we determined that the key to increasing user retention is to improve the experience of female users and users without qualified photos. Our survey showed that due to the passive nature of Asian women, 40% of female users on Tantan swipe in an extremely selective way, resulting in them hardly getting any matches or interactions. In addition, for those who failed to provide qualified photos and were therefore denied access to the swiping system, 60% of them expressed their genuine desire to use Tantan's dating service. Currently, this group of people represents around 1/3 of average daily new registrations. The swipe and match product mechanism tends to be less effective in terms of addressing the needs of these 2 categories of users. That's why their retention has always been significantly lower than average. We believe providing richer alternative features can help improve their dating experience and retention, ultimately making a significant incremental contribution to MAUs. While the team has yet to make a breakthrough in this aspect, we have seen some encouraging test results. We will continue to explore this with rapid iteration in 2022.
产品上，除了明确推动用户增长的重要路径在于提供滑动匹配之外的约会功能，团队的另外一项重要举措是在3季度改版中拆除了大量影响用户体验并引发客诉的付费墙设计和营销策略。商业化回撤虽然使付费转化率、付费用户数、RP 和收入等商业指标短期出现下滑，但改版后的几个月里，会员续订率持续大幅提升，留存率也有所改善。第2月数据显示，整体付费转化率已进入稳步增长的轨道，续订率的提升为我们平衡用户体验、推动收入进一步增长奠定了坚实的基础。
On the product side, in addition to clarifying that the key to drive user growth is to provide richer alternative dating experience on top of the swiping mechanism, the other important initiative that we undertook in the Q3 product upgrade was to remove the excessive paywall features and merchandising tactics that caused customer complaints. such a demonetization process had led to decrease in commercial metrics, including paying conversion, paying user count, ARPU, and revenue in the short run. However, in the months following the product upgrade, the membership renewal rate showed a substantial increase, and the retention ratio also improved. In January and February, overall paying conversion returned to a steady improvement track. The improvement in the membership renewal rate laid a solid foundation for us to balance user experience and further grow revenues.
国内并行的海外业务在我们接手后也取得令人振奋的进展。二季度重启印尼市场后，团队凭借滑动匹配机制、加音视频的用户产品模式以及直播加非会员 VAS 的付费模式，打破我们在发展中国家市场常见的 ARPU 瓶颈，渠道投放 ROI 稳步提升，同时供给侧参与度、用户渗透率及使用时长持续向好。第三方平台 Data.ai 的数据显示，探探用户和收入规模下半年在印尼市场始终领先于 Tinder，12月流水是 Tinder 的 1.4 倍。
In parallel with our domestic efforts, our team made impressive progress in overseas expansion since taking over Tantan's execution. We made a foray back into the Indonesian market in Q2 by introducing audio and video-based real-time interactive features on top of the swiping experience. We were able to leverage live streaming and a non-membership VAS monetization model to break through the ARPU ceiling that is often seen in developing countries. The combination of innovative consumer and monetization products drove steady improvement in channel marketing ROI. Meanwhile, engagement on the supply side, user penetration and time spent continue to trend up as well. Statistics from Data.ai showed that Tantan's user and revenue scale in Indonesia was ahead of Tinder throughout the second half of the year, and its December revenue was 1.4 times that of Tinder.
用户男女比的改善、续订率的提升以及在印尼取得的稳步进展，共同为2021下半年的用户增长做出贡献。这些积极的改变使我们坚信，朝着正确的方向一点点的持续踏实前进，是最终实现用户增长的有效路径。这个旅程是长期而艰辛的，但最终也会是硕果丰富的。在追求目标的过程中，专注和决心是最重要的，耐心和毅力是最重要的，可能最为重要的是对长期主义的坚持。
The more favorable gender ratio, improved subscription renewal rate, and solid progress we've made in Indonesia have collectively contributed to the user growth during the latter half of FY21. These positive changes have given us firm confidence that small yet solid steps in the right direction can be an effective way towards user growth. The journey won't be easy, but will be an extremely rewarding one in the end. Along that journey, commitment matters, patience matters, perseverance matters, perhaps the most important of all, focus on the long-term matters.
以上是业务回顾，接下来进入我今天发言最重要的部分。2022年集团层面的战略目标以及实现路径。
This concludes the business updates. Now, I'll move on to the most important part of my speech today, the group-level strategic priorities for 2022 and how we plan to achieve them.
对于陌陌主 App， 我们的目标仍将是以有限的营销预算，力图实现用户规模稳中求进。实现这一目标的2个重点任务是：一、持续优化获客模型，提升召回比例，平衡整体获客 ROI； 二、产品上进一步挖掘未能满足的用户需求，优化以女性向为主的社交场景，提升留存，并利用新技术持续推动产品创新，打造面向年轻用户群体的产品体验，来吸引增量用户。
For Core Momo, our goal continues to be able to maintain a stable user base with a limited marketing budget and try to seek user growth on top of that. Our action plan consists of 2 pillars. First, we'll continue to optimize user acquisition model and increase the proportion of dormant users to balance overall ROI. Second, on the product side, we'll continue to identify underserved users' needs and optimize female-oriented social experiences to improve retention and leverage new technologies to push forward product innovations to meet the needs of young generation and attract new users.
另一方面，我们需要持续丰富产品矩阵，拓宽陌陌和探探之外的业务边界。除了赫兹对对和 SoChill 这几款已经推出且盈利能力得到验证的 Apps， 我们计划复制这一成功模式，并陆续推出几款其他产品。目标在未来3到5年内拥有10几款有盈利能力，同时在某些细分领域占据领导地位的 Apps。
On the other hand, we need to continue to enrich our product portfolio and push the boundaries beyond Momo and Tantan. In addition to Hezizi, Duidui, and SoChill, whereby profitability has already been proven, we plan to replicate this model in other apps. Our goal is to have a dozen profitable apps that can take leading positions in niche markets in the next 3 to 5 years.
除了上述这些垂直应用，我想再次和大家分享一些更宏观的东西。 我们目前看到一个明确的长期趋势是，用户屏幕消费时间将伴随技术发展由移动端向其他智能硬件转移。这一技术突破给陌生社交在模式和体验上带来新的契机。我们一直在密切关注，例如 3D 渲染、动作捕捉、AR 以及 XR 设备等有助于多维度提升社交体验感的技术发展动向，并正在这方面做出大胆的探索和布局。作为在约会和开放式社交领域拥有10余年丰富经验的龙头公司，每月帮助上亿用户发现新朋友、扩展社交关系，并建立有效互动是我们的核心价值所在。我们期待能够借助技术变革，帮助用户更好地满足人类最基本的链接需求。
In addition to these vertical apps, I'd like to share my views on something bigger. As technology evolves, we can see a clear long-term trend of people's screen time shifting from mobile devices to other types of smart hardware. Technological breakthroughs bring new opportunities for open social experiences in terms of how people can connect and interact with each other. We have been paying close attention to the development of technologies such as 3D rendering, motion capturing, AI, and XR devices, all of which can help enhance social experiences in multiple dimensions, and we are making bold explorations on this front. As a leading company with over a decade of experience in dating and open social space, we help more than 100 million users discover new relationships, expand their social connections, and build meaningful interactions on a monthly basis. This is the core value of our business. I look forward to helping users better meet the most basic human needs through technological advancements.
Momo 团队今年的第3个战略目标是确保现金流业务的稳定产出。2022年最大的不确定性来自宏观经济和疫情对消费情绪的影响，这给实现商业目标带来严峻的挑战。我们目前的应对策略是加大商业产品创新，同时适度提升新 Apps 商业化力度，以带动 VAS 整体增长水平。
For the Momo team, the third strategic goal for the year is to ensure the cash cow business remains stable. For 2022, the biggest uncertainty will arise from the impact of the macroeconomy and pandemic on consumer sentiment, which brings significant challenges to achieving this specific goal. Our plan is to enhance commercial product innovation while ramping up the monetization level of new apps to drive overall growth of VAS.
下面再探探今年的战略目标依旧是通过提高市场营销效率以及核心约会体验，推动用户规模稳定增长。
With respect to Tantan, the strategic goal this year remains to deliver solid user growth by improving marketing efficiency and the core dating experience.
产品方面，我们将持续专注改善女性用户和不露脸用户的留存问题。我们目前试图通过以下2方面的努力来解决这2个问题：一是丰富用户资料和其他能展现个性内容；二是拓宽用户之间的连接互动方式。
On the product side, we'll continue to focus on improving the retention ratio of female users and those without qualified photos. We are currently trying to resolve these 2 issues through efforts mainly in 2 areas. Number 1, enriching user profile information as well as other content that can reveal personality. Number 2, expanding the ways people connect and interact with one another.
在提升市场效率方面，今年的3个重点工作分别是优化单位获客成本、丰富广告素材和梳理新的品牌形象。过去几个月的投放经验令我们认识到，靠提升单位获客成本实现用户增长的模式成本高，效果差，而素材的改善反倒可以带来优质且可观的增量用户，这将是今年渠道优化的重点方向。另外，探探在品牌方面还存在巨大的提升空间，实现用户增长良性循环的关键在于提升新增用户中自然量的占比，而非依靠渠道买量。而这一目标只能通过对品牌的持续投入来实现，同时要结合产品体验的提升，这比简单粗暴的重金投入渠道要有效得多。今年我们将配合产品进度，在品牌方面进行更多的探索和投入。
In terms of improving marketing efficiency, 3 key areas are crucially important for us to achieve our goal: optimizing unit acquisition cost, enriching ads content, and enhancing brand equity. Our channel marketing experience over the past few months made us realize that driving user growth by simply allowing user acquisition costs to go up is costly and inefficient. On the contrary, improving ads material can bring considerably more high-quality new users. This will be the key direction for channel marketing optimization this year. In addition, we are seeing huge potential for Tantan to enhance its brand equity. The key to creating a virtuous circle in user growth is to increase organic portion of new users as opposed to those coming from paid channels. This goal can be achieved only through continuous investment into branding, which also needs to go hand in hand with genuine improvement in product experience. This is going to be so much more efficient than simply pouring money into marketing channels. This year, we will further explore opportunities and invest in Tantan's branding. We will time the branding efforts with progress on the product side.
最后向大家宣布，董事会已批准了每股 IDS 0.64美元的特别现金派息方案，现金派息总额约1.27亿美元，相当于2021年调整后归母净利润的40%。这是我们连续第4年与股东分享经营成果，彰显了管理层对公司基本面的信心，以及为股东创造并交付长期价值的诚意。感谢各位对智能团队的信任。
Lastly, I would like to conclude by announcing that our board has declared a cash dividend in the amount of $0.64 per ADS, which will amount to a total cash payment of approximately $127 million, or 40% of adjusted net income attributable to the Hello Group Inc. in 2021. This is the fourth consecutive year that we've shared our fruits of our work with our shareholders. It demonstrates management's confidence in the fundamentals of the company, as well as our commitment to creating and delivering shareholder value for the long term. Thank you for your faith in the Hello Group team.
以上是本次电话会我想和大家分享的内容。接下来请 Jonathan 为大家介绍具体的财务情况。
This is what I'd like to cover today. Now let me pass the call over to Mr. Jonathan Zhang for financial review. John, please.
Thanks. Hello everyone. Thank you for joining our conference call today. Now let me briefly take you through the financial review. Total revenue for the fourth quarter 2021 was 3.6 billion RMB, down 3% year-on-year, or 2% quarter-over-quarter. Non-GAAP net income attributable to Hello Group was 280.9 million RMB, compared to 836.4 million RMB from the same period of 2020, or a 66% decrease year-over-year. During the fourth quarter, the company accrued 207.4 million RMB withholding tax on undistributed earnings generated in 2021 by our wholly owned foreign enterprise, due to our plan to continue to repatriate profit from the WFOE to support our capital allocation demands, including but not limited to returning cash to our shareholders and overseas business investment, etc. Excluding this special item, non-GAAP net income for the quarter would have been 488.3 million RMB. As Wang Li has covered revenue analysis in a great level of details, in the interest of time, I will skip it and dive directly into the cost and the expenses items for the quarter. Our non-GAAP cost of revenue for the fourth quarter of 2021 was 2.19 billion RMB, compared to 2.02 billion for the same period last year. The non-GAAP cost of revenue as a percentage of total revenue was 59.6%, an increase from 53.2% from the Q4 2020. The non-GAAP gross profit margin for the quarter was down by 6.3 percentage points from a year ago. The decrease was attributed to the following factors. Number one, which is the biggest one, higher payout ratio from core Momo live broadcasting business on a year-over-year basis due to our adjustments to the broadcaster and agency incentive program. And number two, Tantan accounted for a smaller percentage of the group's total revenue, as its gross margin is higher than core Momo. Number three, fixed nature cost items such as headcount and IDC CDN expenses represented a higher percentage of revenue as total revenue declined, particularly on Tantan side, which was due to the demonetization plan. On a sequential basis, the non-GAAP gross profit margin for the quarter was down by 2.2% from Q3. The cost of revenue in Q3 2021 included 49 million production costs. Excluding this quarterly specific item, we would have seen a 3.4% sequential decrease in the non-GAAP gross margin for the quarter, which was primarily attributable to the higher payout ratio in connection with the year-end gala and more promotional events to help the agencies and broadcasters weather through the macro headwind. We currently expected the non-GAAP gross margin to see a rebound of a couple of percentage points from Q1 onwards due to less competition events related costs, as well as positive revenue mix change as we expect VAS revenue to represent a increasingly higher percentage of total revenue. Non-GAAP R&D expenses for the fourth quarter was 279.7 million RMB compared to 286.5 million for the same period last year, representing 7.6% and 7.5% of total revenue, respectively. The decrease was mainly due to decrease in employee salaries and social welfare, resulting from a reduction in headcount. We ended the quarter with 2,051 total employees, of which 552 are from Tantan. R&D personnel as a percentage of total employees for the group was 62% compared to 57% Q4 last year. Non-GAAP sales and marketing expenses for the fourth quarter was 648.6 million RMB, or 17.7% of the total revenue, compared to 654.1 million RMB, or 17.2% of total revenue for the same period last year. The year-over-year decrease in sales and marketing expense in RMB amount was mainly due to a lower user acquisition investment for Tantan, as Wang Li mentioned earlier. The decrease was also partially offset by our stepped-up marketing efforts to promote a recent launched simulation game, Fairytown, in the overseas market. The non-GAAP G&A expenses was 89.4 million RMB for the fourth quarter of 2021, compared to 134.5 million RMB for the same period last year, representing 2.4% and 3.5% of total net revenue, respectively. It's worth mentioning here, due to the fact that the group's fair market value, as indicated by its market cap, has been significantly below its net book value of equity. For conservative perspective, we recorded a 4.397 billion RMB as an impairment loss during the quarter, which represented the total value of all goodwill and intangible assets, with the exception of the group's operational license and permits on the consolidated statements of operations for the year ended December 31st, 2021. This impairment resulted in a 4.02 billion RMB GAAP operating loss for the Q4 2021. Now briefly on income tax expenses. As I mentioned at the beginning, in Q4 we accrued withholding income tax of 207.4 million RMB on undistributed earnings generated in the year of 2021 by our WOFE. This amount was recorded as income tax expenses for the company. In the past, we recorded withholding income taxes in connection with the repatriation of WOFE's profit whenever it actually happened, as we intended permanently reinvest the undistributed earnings from our WFOEs in China. Starting from Q4 2021, all undistributed profit generated by WFOE will be subject to 10% withholding tax accrual based on the company's repatriation history and expected ongoing demand for US dollar funding needs, including but not limited to returning cash to our shareholders as well as offshore business development. Therefore, going forward on a quarterly basis, we will accrue 10% of net income from WFOE for the quarter and record as income tax expenses. Now turning to balance sheet and cash flow items. As of December 31st, 2021, Hello Group's cash equivalents, short-term deposits, long-term deposits, restricted cash, and long-term restricted cash totaled 15.71 billion RMB compared to 16.48 billion RMB as of December 31st, 2020. Net cash provided by operating activities in the fourth quarter 2021 was 665.5 million RMB. Lastly, on the business outlook, we estimated our first quarter of 2022 revenue to come in the range from 3.1 billion RMB to 3.2 billion RMB, representing a decrease of 10.7% to 7.8% year-on-year, or a decrease of 15.6% to 12.9% quarter-over-quarter. For Q1 2022, we expect total revenue for core Momo to decrease in mid-single digit from Q1 last year due to macro weakness and the pandemic control negatively impact users' spending sentiment. On Tantan side, we expect the revenue to be in the trough in Q1, mainly due to the combination of factors, including resurgence in COVID, lagging vast revenue impact from the demonetization process last year, as well as restructuring of our Tantan's live streaming business, which could translate into a similar level of year-over-year decrease rate as seen in Q4 2021. However, we do expect Tantan's revenue to improve from Q1's level as the year progresses. Please be mindful that this forecast represents the company's current and preliminary view on the market condition and operational conditions, which are subject to changes. That concluded our prepared portion of today's discussion. With that, let me turn the call back to Ashley to start the Q&A. Ashley, please.
Thanks, John. Just a quick reminder before we take in the questions. For those who can speak Chinese, please ask your questions in Chinese first, followed by English translations. Also, please limit the number of questions to maximum 2. Thank you. Operator, we're ready for questions.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you have a question or a comment at this time, please press the star, then the 1 key on your touchtone telephone. If your question has been answered or you wish to move yourself from the queue, please press the pound key. Our first question comes from Thomas Chong with Jefferies.
晚上好，谢谢管理层接受我的提问。我有2个问题。第一个是关于 Core 探探的。管理层可以分享一下2022年在用户增长的预期，FAST 还有直播的收入，还有就是全年的利润跟亏损的一个情况。我的第2个问题是也是关于Core Momo 对探探那边，就是想问一下，就是探探那边的用户收入还有利润的一个预期。谢谢。Thanks management for taking my question. I have 2 questions. The first question is about Core Momo. Can management share about the 2022 user growth expectations and the revenue trend for FAST and live streaming together with the full year profitability profile? And the second question is about Tantan. Can management comment about the user trend, revenue, as well as the earnings profile? Thank you.
谢谢你的提问。那首先我先回答一下第一个问题吧。那关于陌陌主站这块的话，那今年这个主站的用户目标呢，跟去年是保持一致的，也就是以一个持平的营销预算，维持稳中求进的策略。那就目前渠道情况来看的话，要实现这个目标，那需要坚持召回策略的优化以及渠道拓宽。但是呢，一季度因为受这个疫情影响吧，以及这个季节性的这个影响 ，MAU 可能会出现下跌。那么收入方面有几个因素需要考虑。那首先是宏观经济的情况一季度指引可以看出宏观给直播带来挑战呢比较严峻。此外呢，这个外部环境的变化吧，对于公会的积极性也有不小的影响。如果下半年宏观情况和其他外部因素有所缓和，然后直播情况也会好转，那否则的话下行压力将会持续。策略上我们会采取积极的产品和运营措施，保证用户体验以及内容供给端的生态稳定。那至于 VAS 方面，宏观和疫情对于陌陌主平台 VAS 也有影响，但是和直播相比的话，VAS 的抗周期能力会更强一些，尤其是这个河洛加正处于一个上升期。那今年我们会适度加大商业化力度，带动整体 VAS 收入增长。那么整体 VAS 我们希望今年仍然能够保持一个这个双位数的增长。那么在收入结构上 ，VAS 占比较去年会持续增加，而直播占比会持续下降。那么我们估计在集团层面，到今年年底会从去年年底的这个60%下降到50%左右。然后鉴于我们这个一季度的利润，由于收入季节性低谷会比较低，那么我想就今年的一个利润情况呢做一些分享。那么针对目前宏观不确定性给收入带来压力呢，管理层在营销、营业费用方面呢都还有相应的优化方案。那么预计陌陌的整体费用规模会大幅缩减。那尽管目前收入还存在一些不确定性，那么但是利润水平会在一季度过后出现回升。预计除去这个探探部分呢，陌陌整体年度营业利润率仍然会保持在20%以上，预计和去年的水平呢差不多。
So Thomas, to answer your question on the core Momo part, our user growth target for the core Momo in 2022 remains the same as last year, which is to remain a stable user base with a flattish marketing budget and try to seek user growth on top of that. And as far as the current channel marketing environment is concerned, to achieve this goal, we need to continue to optimize our strategy for reactivating dormant users and expanding marketing channels. However, MAU in Q1 may experience a decline due to the impact of the pandemic and the negative seasonality. In terms of revenue outlook, there are a few factors that need to be taken into consideration. First of all is the macroeconomy. Our Q1 guidance reflects the severe challenges to our live streaming business from the macro headwinds. And besides, changes in the external environments have had quite an impact on the engagement of agencies. So if the macro and other external conditions ease in the second half, the live streaming business may very well improve. Otherwise, the downward pressure will continue. And to address this, we will try to make more efforts on the product and operational side to enhance user experience and ensure stable content supply. And in terms of value-added service, the macro environment and pandemic have had a negative impact on the core Momo value-added service. But compared with live streaming business, VAS is a lot more resilient to the economic cycles. So in particular, as the new bucket of standalone apps is taking off, so we will moderately ramp up monetization efforts this year to drive overall user growth of VAS. We expect value-added service to grow as a whole in the double digit in 2022. As for the revenue structure, revenue contribution from value-added service will continue to increase, while the proportion of live streaming will further decrease. At the group level, we expect live streaming revenue contribution to drop from 60% at the end of last year to around 50% at the end of this year. Given the net income in Q1 will be quite low due to negative seasonality in revenue, here I would like to provide a bit more color about profitability this year. In response to current pressure on revenue from macro uncertainty, management has a strong focus on optimizing operating expenses. We expect OPEX to reduce significantly this year. Although there are some uncertainties on the revenue front, we expect profit to rebound after Q1. And excluding Tantan, the annual profit margin for the core Momo is expected to remain above 20%, which is about the same as last year.
关于第二个问题，就是探探这一块儿，那么探探今年的用户增长呢，取决于内外两个因素。首先是外因，外因是这个疫情和防控措施什么时候能够缓和。一季度目前来看的话，疫情反复比较严重，防控措施呢也很严格，因此探探在部分疫情比较严重的地区呢出现了明显下降。但由于产品和投放方面的稳步改善，在疫情不严重、防控相对宽松地区呢仍然有上涨。整体我们需要等疫情减退情况较为明朗之后呢，才能可靠估计用户增长的情况。另外一个是内因，内因方面是产品方面的进展的速度以及投放的节奏。那么去年我们在整体节奏和目标设定方面呢显得操之过急了，但整体用户也进入了止跌回升的通道。目前我们各项产品迭代都在稳步进行，同时配合渠道持续优化，相信 MAU 在这个疫情缓和之后呢，能够继续稳步提升。我们的目标呢是在未来3年内，探探能够以一个稳健的20%左右的速度增长。
I think Tantan's user growth in the upcoming year will depend on both external and internal factors. The external factors include when the pandemic and the related control measures will ease. In Q1, the COVID-19 resurgence has been quite serious, and the related control measures were very strict. As a result, active user base decreased significantly in areas where COVID resurgence was severe. However, the steady product and marketing improvement led to an upward trend in user scale in regions where COVID-19 containment measures were relatively relaxed. On the whole, we need to wait until the pandemic situation becomes clearer before we can make a more realistic estimate of the user growth. The internal factors come from progress on the product side and the pace of our marketing efforts. Last year, the target we set at which how fast we should push forward the product and operational plans was a little bit too aggressive. Yet, user growth has bottomed out and returned to a growth track. As for now, we are making steady progress in various product iterations and channel marketing optimization. We expect to see a steady upward trend in MAUs when the pandemic subsides. Our target is to deliver a steady CAGR growth of 20% for MAUs over the next 3 years.
至于在收入方面的话，我们预计VAS 在一季度会是一个低谷，那主要由于疫情和会计上的收入递延问题。那一季度之后呢，我们预计环比会逐渐上升，那主要有几个驱动因素。那首先我们预计 MAU 在疫情之后呢会稳步回升，那么其次呢来自稳定的付费转化率，那主动性的商业化回撤的产品调整呢已经完成了，一季度的付费转化率已经在稳定回升的轨道。给大家一个数据上的感知虽然1月、2月 MAU 受疫情影响有所下降，但由于付费转化的回升，2月付费用户与12月基本持平。那第三个是来自于新 VAS 产品的贡献。目前来看的话，闪聊、聊天室和其他一些新的会员产品都可能会带来增量。当然，这里也包括海外市场的稳定增长。虽然我们预计 VAS 收入在一季度低谷后会是环比上升的趋势，但由于去年下半年大幅的商业化回撤策略，2022年的同比呢还是会出现下降。那么至于直播，因为不是探探当前的业务重点，因此一季度会进一步显著收缩。战略上我们会转向于社交耦合度更高的多人视频。
On the revenue front, we expect VAS revenue to be in the trough in Q1, mainly due to the pandemic impact and revenue deferral. However, VAS revenue should gradually pick up after Q1, mainly due to the following factors. First one is the steady recovery of MAUs after the pandemic ease up. Second factor is that we should benefit from a stable paying conversion. We're done with our demonetization initiatives, and paying conversion is back on a steady growth track in Q1. Here, I will share some recent developments to give you more insight on the situation. Although COVID resurgence led to a sequential decrease in MAUs in the first couple of months of the year, and thanks to the improvement in paying conversion, the number of paying users in February remained pretty much stable compared to last December. And the third driving factor for revenue growth is the contribution of new value-added service products. For example, Flash Chat, Chat Room, and some other new membership-based paying features are very much likely to bring in incremental revenue. And steady growth in overseas market will also make incremental contribution to the top line. Although we expect VAS revenue to be on a sequential upward trend after the trough in Q1, a total VAS revenue for the year 2022 will still be lower than last year. due to our substantial demonetization strategy in the second half of 2021. As for live streaming, since it's not Tantan's current business focus, we expect its revenue to further decline significantly in Q1. We will shift our strategic focus to multiplayer live video, which fits better with the overall social atmosphere on Tantan.
关于费用方面，那根据我们的年度预算呢，会采取成本优化措施例如人力成本、IDC、CDN 等7项都有相应的一个节约计划。但由于今年我们会开始有计划的对探探在品牌方面进行投入，因此营销费用呢可能会有所上升，幅度是投入产出比而定。那整体年度亏损呢，我们会控制在5亿左右。上半年由于收入处于低点，亏损会在4季度基础上有所扩大。但下半年呢，随着收入增长，亏损会显著缩窄。
In terms of cost and expenses, according to our annual budget, we will make measures to optimize. We'll take measures to optimize cost controls across various areas, including labor costs and expenses for IDC and CDN. However, since we will start to invest in Tantan's brand building as planned this year, marketing expenses will go up depending on the effectiveness of the campaigns. We will control the annual net loss to be somewhere around 500 million RMB. Revenue in the first half of the year will be relatively low, so net loss will widen from Q4 level. However, we expect the net loss to narrow as revenue grows in the second half. So I think I hope we've answered your question, Thomas. I think in the interest of time, we're getting quite close to market open, so maybe we're just gonna wrap up here for today's call. And thank you all for participating to our Q4 earnings conference call, and we will see you next quarter.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes today's presentation. You may now disconnect and have a wonderful day.